We're back. 335i E90 2011 N55.
We're throwing a DCT in it. Came with the 6 HP. Some of them, like the 1 series, came with the DCT.
First thing you gotta do is take out the automatic shifter. There's a clip, a 13mm nut you loosen off. That'll slide out. Slide out right through this hole. After you get these 3 bolts off, disconnect all these connectors and it'll slide right out through here. Get this out, put it directly in the garbage. Where it belongs. Next thing we're gonna need to do is take our wires from the factory. A few of these we're gonna be tapping into. About 10 wires on the OEM DCT shifter that are going to be probably about, I think 5 of these get used for that, 5 or 6. The other 3 we have to go up underneath the glove box to get the PT CAN bus signal, and then 1 more is for ground. I can't remember, I'll have to look back at the diagram. The N55s, it's a little bit easier because you get a 135i wiring harness for the transmission itself, and that will plug and play up front, I think, from what I've read on the forums and whatnot. So we're kind of play it by ear here. We got everything out for the most part, other than obviously the transmission. First things first we're going to do is actually get all these wires.
You gotta let them know we are professionals.
By the way, I am a professional. This is a DIY
Professional DIY.
while I'm figuring out how to do it. We're going to start splicing into these. Actually going to grab that transmission sitting right over there. Pull it over to the side of the car. Probably this side or even just underneath the car. We're going to actually connect everything up and code it before even putting it in the car.
We need to make sure it properly communicates. If it properly communicates, then all the mechanical stuff is easy.
Yeah, it's going to be an M4 at flywheel too. It's a lot lighter. It's about 10 pounds lighter, and it won't cause issues like the factory 335i.
Oh yeah, it does cause issues. I forgot about that. That was a false
super knock. False knock. N54 still sucks, still knocks. So we're getting down to business here. This is the harness that's going to be getting swapped out. So we can grab the injection harness off. So injection harness has to come off first, right here. You can squeeze the sides. Transmission harness to the DME. There's also a few more connectors. Tee off, and they're underneath the intake manifold right here. Jeez. Playing operation. Smells good.
He's good. Plastic charge pipe.
Map sensors still good. The other 2 connectors we're gonna have to get off here is gonna be for the AC compressor and this power connector right here. This big connector right here clips into here. Not anymore because this plastic's stupid brittle under here. And then your AC compressor. So grab that guy off. Bring it around. It does clip in a couple of different spots there. And just like that, mostly disconnected here. This harness. So now I just need to go underneath and get that transmission connector unplugged. But I don't really need to do that yet because that can stay plugged in. I'm just gonna run the other harness over this and plug in our other connectors over here. I'm getting the OEM harness out to take off this cross brace. So I have the old Mi box wiring harness out, and I have the new one kind of just slouched over here. I have them all plugged in. I have the power cable bolted up. I have the old stuff all unplugged, as you saw. I plugged in the new harness, the AC compressor, and this power cable that goes, I believe, to the water pump. DCT shifter harness, and we have a ground cable right here. This ground cable goes all the way back behind the block and bolts onto the block. I am going to probably just do it right here for now. All it needs is a good ground. So I'll put it on this ground, and then what we can do, this was actually Hunter's idea, we're gonna be able to
lay it on the ground underneath it, or
you can probably get this down there and lay it underneath the car. All we need to do is plug this into the transmission, give it power, see if we can talk to it and code the car for the DCT. So this is flying by pretty quick just to get that mostly mocked up. The only reason we're doing this is because we don't know for sure the discrepancies of this swap. I read that this is plug and play right here because all of these are perfect. They all go into the right spots. Like the correct colors in the wiring harnesses on the actual ISTA, all of these 3. This blue one though, if you look, this is going to the transmission. It's using 4 smaller pins and 2 big pins right here. Over here, it's using only 7 small pins, no big pins. So these ones aren't getting hit right here, this CAN bus line. But from what I read, this is exact same. So we're gonna plug it in and see if it can talk to it. I don't even know if it has fluid in it still. It's been sitting in here for quite some time now. All right. Free bolt, hell yeah.
In my way here, pin number 1 on the auto gear shift connector. If you follow it, it is unused. So cut that one and label it unused in case it needs to go back to stock. But I think the deeper I go, the less stock it's going back. If you can find some Scotch tape, that would be awesome. We are now at a place where I can give a good update here. So I obviously disassembled the glove box. That's pretty self-explanatory. You can just watch a video on that. A couple T20s. And then once that's out of the way, I'm not even to that point yet, but for here, so you actually have to make your own sport button harness, and on this car there is the blue 4-pin connector here, and then there's also a set here, and it was the set right here. And what I did is I cut it off right there. It's not used at all whatsoever anymore with the dual clutch transmission, so you opt that off, and now that gives me a point to start making a harness here. So I'm just basically going through matching up. I found this diagram online. We can probably post a link to it somewhere too in the video. But I'm doing I started with the easy gear shift selector from the factory car. So I went and I cut them off one by one, started to label them. First one unused, tuck that away. Number 2, you can follow it right here. Number 2 comes down to the sport button. So I have actually a tee off. So you can see right here where it tees in. It's actually pin 6 on the DCT connector, and that goes all the way up to pin 3 on the gear shift. I labeled it here, pin 6, and then pin 2 for the sport button. And I have these two right here that are already occupied, pin 7 and 8. And I have that labeled here, 7 and 8. So I'm basically just going through one by one, making sure everything's connected. This 2-pin right here, it shows it as a 3 on the diagram, but right here, it's this little 2-pin connector, because you can see on the diagram, it's marked. Number 2 is crossed out, you're not used, and the colors match up, the brown and purple and black and purple. So what you do is you actually cut the black and purple, and that one is going to go to your parking lot down here, which is a 2-pin. I haven't done that one yet, but I shall update when I get there. So I forgot to tell y'all, you actually don't use any connector in here from factory. That's why you can see this one. I've only cut the one I need off of the blue connector, which goes to the parking lot, which is pin number 2. So I just cut that one, and that one is separated. As well as the 2-pin here, I just cut the black and purple also for the parking lot, and just left the connector. I'm just going to tuck it away. There's no need to cut it off. So I'm not too sure where we left off, but I remember that I didn't have this fully done. So I have the shifter harness all fully complete.
Looks kind of ugly.
It is kind of ugly. I'm going to wrap it up and zip tie, make it look all pretty. But this is all very self-explanatory. Kind of just follow the diagram. Once again, we'll show somewhere either on the screen or post a link. But the straight connections are super, super easy. The hardest part were these splices down here. The wake up and then the PT can high and low. If you come in here underneath, you take the glove box out. A lot of forums are going to tell you it's the right one. And the colors didn't end up matching up for us. We think it's for a 54 car. The correct ones are actually on the blue connector here on the left. And you can see that I have 3 wires here. I just chose to use a twisted pair from an old harness that we had for the can signal, so they didn't get interrupted or weird signal. Make sure, I would try to use a twisted pair for the can signal. And the wake up can just be your 20 gauge wire. So what you do is you take this connector out. It's super easy to slide the sheathing off of it, and then right here on the actual diagram it'll tell you what pin. So 2 and 1, and then 45 for the wake up. And it's pretty, the colors match up. The colors match up perfect and everything. There's even a little diagram right here. But other than that, everything's pretty straightforward. I told them about how to cut the connector that you're not going to use anymore. Use that for the sport button. And if you can see now, it says park.
That means we're connected with the GWS is working properly and the transmission's connected.
And you'll know if you connected this properly too, if you have a scan tool and you can pull up the GWS. If you can read the gear selector switch, then you're looking good.
After you code it. All right. We have gotten this thing down to science here. This right here is the normal automatic N55 chassis side wiring. All these plugs, they come from the chassis. This is all 135i DCT wiring harness. So this came out of like a 2011 135i with an N55 and a DCT. So this is completely plug and play. There's no need to depin any of these wires, change any of these wires. Everything's exactly the same, plug and play. A few extra wires that aren't used, like these two, and there's a few other wires on this connector that aren't used, but you don't have to depin anything. So you take this harness, you plug it in on this side, you unplug all of your old harness, and you get your power cable connected. This is the old harness, by the way. I still have it in here just because it's kind of connected to the transmission right now, because we don't have the DCT in it quite yet. We just were making sure we could connect to the DCT and communicate and code it. So we got all that plugged in. We have the ground strap that's supposed to go around the back side of the head. I just grounded it here. And with the DCT, it grounds through the engine. So I have the DCT sitting underneath the car right now. We got everything plugged in, and it was Yeah, everything plugged in, wired. We couldn't communicate with the transmission. Well, that's because this ground right here, we had it on a bolt down here, but apparently it wasn't a good ground. So I moved the ground up here and immediately had communication with the transmission.
That definitely didn't take 2 days.
That definitely didn't take us 2 days to figure out. Save yourself the trouble with this N55 swap. Don't do what we just did. Plug everything in. If you put it in and you can't communicate with it, you did either something with the shifter or your transmission's trash.
Because the wiring diagram's awesome.
Wiring diagram
Perfect.
is awesome. So yeah, the wiring diagram you find in the Beamer Post forums or Spool Street, we'll probably link it under the video. Money for the shifter. That's about the only wiring you're gonna have to do.
The only iffy part of it is the parking lock.
It is about a $500 part, brand new. You can get them used for like $250. But yeah, we have the transmission plugged in. Everything's plug and play up here in the engine bay because the N55s came factory with a DCT. Meanwhile, only the 335ISs did on the N54s, so there's a lot more wiring to do and custom stuff. You're going to start off with your DCAN cable. Make sure you have one of these guys. I'm not going to show you how to install the Bimmer tools. There's a lot of videos on that, forums, a few different kits you can get, Bimmer Geeks, which takes a lot more setting up. I did have to set up a lot more stuff because I've never had to use WinKFP before. So where you're going to start off here for this, after you get your transmission in, transmission's plugged in, your wiring harness in, the engine base plugged in, and you have cut and wired up the GWS, the gear selector. After you connect to the car, is you're going to open input. You're going to make sure that we have cable detected and ignitions on. So this will tell you that you're talking to the car and the car is responding. If this is not properly on, there's a switch on the end of the DCAN cable you might need to swap over because it does work on DCAN and another different use of it. Go into your actual standard tools file. I have mine on a USB drive, so it's easily put onto like a PC so we can view ISTA. And you're going to go into your NCS Expert first. You're going to go to bin, NCS Expert. I've already obviously coded this car, but I'll still walk you through here. So you're going to click File, Load File. Depending on your version, you're going to have a few different versions here for the file. Ours is factory coding. You're going to click Start, Chassis. You're going to scroll down here to E89, especially because if you're doing this on an E90, E92 with a N55, or N54, whatever. So first thing we're going to do here is we're going to grab the VIN number and the vehicle order from the CAS module. If you're going from an auto to a DCT, this is going to be a lot easier. Manual, I wouldn't really recommend doing that kind of swap because it's going to be pretty rough. Ours already has the VO updated. Yours won't. So you're going to click Edit VO FA. Go down to E89 as well. This is the VIN number of this car. You're going to click OK. When you go to enter FA, what you're going to do is you're going to find this hashtag number here and you're going to delete that. Yours is going to be probably like hashtag 0311, I think is what this one was. You're also going to have a $205. That's going to be your auto 6-speed transmission. You're going to also delete that. You're going to add in this hashtag 0909 using the attribute. So you're just going to do hashtag 0909. You're going to click add, and then you're going to back, and you're going to do $2TC. So that right there is going to be the attribute for the dual clutch transmission. That's the only two you need to add. You're going to click add on that one as well. You're going to look down, make sure both of those are there, and make sure both the other two numbers are gone. The $205 and the dollar or the hashtag, whatever you have on yours. And then you're going to click OK, and you're going to look at your FA up here. It's going to show that it has changed. So after that, you're going to click back. You're going to click process ECU. You're going to click CAS. You're going to click OK. This is going to pop up. You're just going to click OK. You're going to click Change Job, and you're going to click FA Write. So what that's going to do is I'm going to write this new vehicle order telling these modules that you have a dual clutch transmission instead of an automatic transmission. Click OK. You're going to then click Execute Job. It's going to write the FA, the VO, onto the CAS module. So after that, you're going to need to go to Change ECU. After that is done, you're going to go down to your NFRM. So the FRM also needs to be coded for that VO. You're going to click OK. You're going to click OK, and you're going to click Execute Job because its job name is still going to be FA Write. So those are the only two that you're going to need to actually use the FA Write job for. After that, you're going to click Change Job. You're going to go to SG Codrian. I think that's how you say it. Probably butchering that. And then you're going to click Execute Job on the NFRM. This is what I did. This is what worked for me. I don't know if you actually have to factory code it after that. I'm pretty sure you do. And then after the NFRM's done, you're going to click Change ECU, and you're going to go to the CAS module. You're going to do a SG Codrian on the CAS module as well. And so what this is doing is this is taking the VO change that's on the CAS module and the NFRM, and now you're going to factory code the rest of the modules that talk to the dual clutch transmission, and you're going to tell them, hey, this is no longer an auto, this is now a dual clutch. So you're going to click Execute Job on the CAS module. You're going to click Change ECU. You're going to have to go through a lot of different ones. I'll flash them on the screen, which exactly you need to click. But luckily, this SG Codrian will stay there. All you need to do on each of them is go in, click the junction box and say 2J BBF is the junction box. You're gonna click OK, OK, and you're just gonna click execute job on SG code root. Then you're gonna click change ECU, you're gonna go to the next one. Once you're done with all the ECUs that you need to process, you need to change the coding for and factory code as a DCT. You're gonna have a job name and you're gonna say, it's gonna say coding done or coding ended. If you have a failure, obviously you have some kind of issue with wiring or the CAN bus is possibly having an issue, or I would just check that ground like I showed you before if you are trying to do this with it out of the car, which I don't recommend. Now, after you've coded the car, you're going to open up INPA again. You're going to go to E90, which is the car you're working with. You're going to go to functional jobs. It'll say language variants don't match, something of this sort. As long as there are no other codes, you should be fine. You're going to go to UIF or VIF, actually UIF. And what it's going to do is it's going to read this transmission. For me, it's the EGS, that's the transmission module. If you read down this and it doesn't say EGF, then you're not talking to the transmission properly and you need to figure out what the issue is. You're going to go to EGS, you're going to follow it down. It's going to give you a ZB number. Take a picture of this list and use that ZB number. The VIN number is going to be different from your car's VIN number, which is fine for now because you got the transmission from a different car. The ZB number for us, it's 8606074. So that's all you're going to need. Take a picture of that list. You're going to quit out of INPA. You're going to go over to EC Apps, which is mine, NFS, wherever your WinKFP is going to be. And you're going to scroll down WinKFP. Now that this is open, there's a lot of backend stuff, SP datans you'll need for this. Watch videos on if this isn't working, there's a lot of ways to figure it out. Or you can go to a local place that can code the transmission and stuff if you're just doing the swap. You're going to click comfort mode. You're going to do choose ZUSB. You're going to scroll down until you get to GS40. And so the GS40 is your transmission control unit for the DCT, the mechatronics unit on the side of the transmission. This is their ZB number. So you're going to reference back to your INPA on what the ZB number was for your ESG or EGS. Since like I said, I think ours was 8606074. You're going to click on that. The integration position, I don't think matters. I just left mine unverblaut and you click OK. And then you're going to click enter VIN number. You're going to get your VIN and you're going to enter your VIN number for the car. Click OK and then you're going to click done. What that's going to do is it's going to pull up the ECU address, it's going to pull up the hardware number that's with that ZUSB. And all you're going to have to do now is click program. If you're having an issue with talking to the transmission, it'll pop up 0% and it'll stay at 0% and you'll have a big code. We were having this issue when we couldn't talk to the transmission. You should be able to communicate with the transmission even without programming the VIN number too. So you're going to click program, status bar is going to go to 100% and it's going to go back to 0 and then it's going to go to 100% again. I think another box will pop up. You just click OK because it's going to tell you that the transmission can only be coded like 11 times or something like that. Whatever, just click OK. Click nothing else after that. You're going to see your status bars. They're going to go away and you're going to have a successful coding as long as there's no issues. After it's successful, you click X and you go to INPA again. For this car, especially on the auto, there's a lot of steps to it. Unfortunately, coding just is like that on these cars. So we're going to go back to INPA. We're going to go back into our E90. We're going to go to transmission. And we're talking to our transmission. To clear out the adaptation that the automatic transmission is still in the DME, you're going to go to E90 engine. For ours is a pre-12 N55 176K. It's going to come up with the version mismatch code, which is fine. You're going to click F5 for status, F5 for digital, and F5 for variant. This is what you're looking for. EGS available. So the EGS is the normal automatic transmission. It says 9. So that's what you want yours to say. If it says JA, you're going to go down and you're going to click F9 for ECU reset. And what that's going to do is it's going to rescan for a automatic transmission and delete all these adaptations.
Alrighty.
Transmission out.
Didn't feel like we needed to show that because you can look up a video on how to do that separately. This is more so for the DCT instructions. It is kind of dark under here. You can't see shit. Bring me the light. There we are.
You hold it?
Yep. Putting the flywheel on. Sorting down.
Yeah, we're just fucking throwing this in, dude. It's nothing.
And ready to come
Christian,
up.
the half-inch jet ratchet's right behind you. Can you grab it?
Yeah.
Preach.
Flywheel is on. And torque to
90 foot-pounds is what we torqued it to with completely red Loctited. Alright, come on up.
Trans is mated. Now we're snugging up the trans bolts to get ready for torque.
So we're getting off the old trans cooler line. This is the same part number, so we're going to reuse the transmission cooler lines. We're going to flush them with some DCT fluid as well as the cooler itself. It makes it a lot easier when you have one of these transmission puller. There's two clips that you have to pull at the same time. So this car's got a pretty special problem. On the N55s, everything's going to be plug and play. The steering column on this car's bad, or the steering column switch center, the clock spring, whatever you want to call it, which is a pretty uncommon thing. This car just has that issue. So everything's going to be plug and play for the most part. We've got the trim back in. We didn't really film a lot of the mechanical work itself just because it's somewhat straightforward stuff. Swapping the DCT on, torquing down the DCT M4, M3 flywheel, and we also had to swap out the Diff because we're not going to XHP tune this car because when the car doesn't come with a DCT from the factory, XHP charges like $900 or something like that, $950. Runs and drives really well with the 256 rear diff. When you do the diff on the LCI cars like this, the axle part numbers are the same, so we didn't have to swap out the axles. But we did have to swap out the drive shaft. Swapped it out for like a manual drive shaft. It's pretty similar sized. It might have been out of a DCT car too though, but it fit perfectly. Everything was good. We had more than enough splines. The main reason why I have to swap it out is because the carrier bearing gets pushed forward when you go to a larger case diff, because this is a small case diff on the LCI cars. Other than that, plug and play wiring. You do not have to depin or rewire anything. Bolt in the transmission, you plug in the DCT wiring harness and you put everything back in the DME box and it's done. This is about the only wiring you have to cut and everything. This up really quick. So we did put in the 4-pin connector. This isn't the perfect connector for this one, but it plugs in, it doesn't come loose. We have our 10-pin connector here. We have it all tested, taped up, factory BMW style tape. I can say, I mean, it's not obviously going to be perfect, like it did come from like an IS or the 135i, but it does look good and fit good in here. I can snap that in, but we're gonna make sure the car's perfect before I snap these in. As long as your car has an M Sport steering wheel with the M Sport LCI paddles, I think the buttons are the same for all the LCI cars as long as it's an M Sport steering wheel, you're good. This is all you need right here. So we're just gonna swap this lock spring out for a good one that we're gonna grab used, and then we're gonna be good to go. All right, we got the clock spring in. Got this guy popped back in, and yeah, we just took her on a good test drive and she rips. Sport button works, everything works. So we just have the car in a bit of pieces right now. We still need to completely get it back together, but launch control works. No codes. We're gonna do the rear brake and front brake relearn on the brake pad wear sensors because they're not done. So that'll get rid of all the lights on the dash pretty much, except for the tire pressure sensor, which won't be gone until he gets his new tire set up in and everything. It works good. It spins him a little bit too. It's only like 50% throttle too. This thing is bone stock. It feels really good. It feels quick. It just picks up, man. It does it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like, subscribe. And
That shit was easy.
Okay, good.
Next up, turbos.
Next up,
19 tier.
yeah,
Right here.
used.
19 T's.
Haters.
Turn tune down just a little bit. Yeah.